Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Here's Johnny.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
Hi there, my little droogies.
Film church.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Today, you people are no longer maggots. Today, you are Marines. You're part of a brotherhood from now on until the day you die. Wherever you are, every Marine is your brother. Most of you will go to Vietnam. Some of you will not come back. But always remember this, Marines die. That's what we're here for. But the Marine Corps lives forever, and that means you live forever.
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Lewis.
And we're here to talk about movies. Each week, Lewis and I alternate picking a film for both of us to watch and discuss, but this week, we continue our 2023 director retrospective on Stanley Kubrick. We have been watching chronologically the films of Kubrick and discussing them in detail each week. And this week, we're discussing Full Metal Jacket from 1987, starring Matthew Modine, R. Lee Ermey, Vincent D'Onofrio, Adam Baldwin, and Arliss Howard. This is going to be the episode where we cuss as much as we want. Because this movie is fucking insane. But stick around to hear us. Wow, I kind of fucked this part up. What am I trying to say here? But we will get to that part of the show in a moment. First, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining this congregation. Your life is now ours. And your ass. But guess what? If you die, you live on forever in the film church. Another way you can live on forever in the film church is by subscribing to all of our social media channels, where you can get extra content and leave a comment and interact with us on there, and you'll live forever in the internet world. We also have extra content on our YouTube channel, podcast where we do video casts with guests. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe on there. And yeah, thanks for being here and being a part of the Film Church this Sunday. Before we get into Full Metal Jacket, which is our feature presentation of the day, we like to discuss what else we've been watching this week. So kind of like the trailers before the feature. So, how's it going, Lewis?
I'm doing good. I've watched some great films, so I'm looking forward to talking to you about them. The first one that I watched was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance from 1962. This was something I've been wanting to go back to for a little while. It features in The Fabelmans. It's one of the films that he goes to see when he's a teenager, and just kind of sparked my interest in going back and rewatching it. And I really, really enjoyed it. Directed by John Ford, starring Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne.
I've definitely seen this before.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like it's a quintessential Hollywood movie. You know, everything seems larger than life when you're watching it. And John Ford is a director that I'm going back to quite a bit at the moment. Yeah. We rewatched this one night, and it was great. I gave it 5 stars. I think Lee Marvin, even though he's not like one of the, two build stars, kind of steals it a little bit as Liberty Valance. Yeah. He's just like loathsome the whole way through, but does it such a good way. It's great.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then I watched Monsieur Verdoux, the Charlie Chaplin film, the one that kind of got me to do that Criterion Challenge this year. Yeah. One of the ones I hadn't seen, so I knocked that off. From 1947, a little bit different for Chaplin in terms of he doesn't play the tramp. Right. He plays kind of like a different character, and he's kind of based on a story by Orson Welles. He basically plays like an older guy that kind of goes around marrying widows for their money and then killing them, which doesn't sound very much like a premise for a comedy, but it is. And I think there's a lot, like all Chaplin films, there's a lot of social commentary on there about kind of the means you'll go to support family and stuff like that. And especially kind of knowing his background, there's a lot of layers to it. Also, the first Chaplin film that my daughter laughed at, which I know I've already kind of mentioned, but it's going to hold a very special place in my heart from now on. And Charlie Chaplin is now becoming a household name for us.
That's awesome.
Which is really great. Yeah, I showed her the poster I have of Charlie up in my office, and she, every other day she's like, "Can we go and see Charlie Chaplin?" I'm like,
that's awesome.
Yes, we
At least
can.
somebody's raising their kids right out there.
Yeah, and she'll randomly just be like, "You remember when he fell out the window?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a good bit." So
that's awesome, dude. That's so cool. I didn't realize that Charlie Chaplin and Orson Welles ever like collaborated. And I guess I guess they collaborated, right, on this?
It was I think it was more of an idea that Orson Welles kind of passed on. I can't remember the history very well, but I think when it came to the time of it being made, Orson Welles got a little bit iffy about the fact that he had kind of given Charlie this idea. So he's got a credit. It's kind of from an idea from Orson Welles. But yeah, it's just one of those weird. It's like Kubrick and Marlon Brando kind of working together for a short time. It's one of those weird crossovers in like film history.
Yeah.
That, I mean, obviously they're around at the same time, but their filmmaking period seems so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's weird to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, one that I'm going to go back to again. I think in the past it's put me off because he's not the tramp,
right?
That we know and love. But it was, it was a good film.
Sweet.
And then the last one that I'm going to talk about is Electra Glide in Blue from 1973, which I think personally is a bit of an overlooked gem. It's a perfect sister movie to Easy Rider, and I know that we talked about Easy Rider like probably a year ago now when I last watched that, and I know you said that you haven't seen Easy Rider. But Electra Glide in Blue, I think if you're going to do a double bill, this would be a perfect double feature for it. It's it's similar sentimentalities, but from the point of a cop. And it's, this change in America and corruption and wanting to kind of get ahead. And it's great. I mean, it's such a good 70s American movie that I can't believe it's not talked about more. And it's just a really interesting, enjoyable film.
Nice.
And there's a really great kind of motorbike chase in the middle of it, which is really cool. And it just goes in different directions. And there's Elijah Cook Jr. who is in it who was also in The Killers.
Okay.
Or The Killing, excuse me.
The Killing.
Yeah.
I was like, The Killers, the band?
And so there's always that Kubrick connection going on throughout all my watching at the moment. There seems to be
everywhere.
Yeah, someone or something that pops up that I'm like, oh, that's very Kubrickian. Kubrickian.
Kubrick.
There, yeah. But yeah, so that is what I've been watching. All of them, I mean, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, I gave 5 stars. Monsieur Verdoux, I gave 4. And then Electra Glide in Blue, I gave 4.5. So it's, pretty strong recommendations on my behalf.
Nice.
And if you do follow me on Letterboxd, I recently compiled a list of every physical media or every Blu-ray and DVD that I have in my collection. So if you do follow me, you can go and check that out. Hint, there's a lot.
How many are there?
Let me pull it up. So there's 1,386 films.
Wow.
But that is including every film that's in a box set. So for example, there's early female filmmakers box set that I've got. That I think that's got like 50 films in it.
Yeah.
like shorts and stuff, and I've added them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so I can be like...
I own it.
Yeah, really anal about all of it.
Physically own it.
Yeah. But yeah, if you go and follow us on Letterboxd, you'll be able to find that list.
Sweet.
So
yeah, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. And some of Chelsea's, like, every now and again it goes from, like The Godfather to Bridget Jones.
Yeah.
So, but that's film, baby.
Do you have The Brothers Solomon, directed by Bob Odenkirk?
I don't.
Ooh,
Do you?
I've got one that you don't have.
That's a deep cut. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
It's like Will Forte and Will Arnett in a movie
nice.
directed by Bob Odenkirk. Apparently, it's like terrible. I haven't even watched it yet. I was listening to a podcast recently, like it was Smartless, Will Arnett's podcast with his buddies, and they had Bob Odenkirk as one of the guests, and they were talking about this movie. I don't think they even mentioned the name of the movie, but they were like, "Oh, it was," they were just talking about how, it wasn't well received and didn't do well, but they all had a great time making it.
Oh, that's
and
good.
then I was at Goodwill like a little while after that, and it was like in the dollar bin. I was like, "Ooh, gonna get it." Yeah. But I'm gonna watch it soon. I've been trying to convince my girlfriend and my roommates to watch it with me, but just like reading the description of what it's about, they're all like, no, because it's about these two guys that like grew up in seclusion, and their father is passing away, and they decide to go and try to make a baby so that their father can have like a descendant.
Oh, okay.
So it's like these two like, just very weird guys trying to like hook up with girls.
Oh, okay.
It sounds great, right?
It sounds like, a certain vein of cinema that was kind of big.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm excited to watch it. So I'll probably be talking about it soon in the next few weeks.
Sweet.
But movies I have watched.
Yeah.
I watched Triangle of Sadness, which was nominated for Best Picture. You have not watched it yet, right?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Well, I think it's on Hulu. And try not to watch any trailers. And do not read the description of what it's about. Try to get as little information as possible and just watch the movie. Because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And, any spoilers, if you know ahead of time kind of where it's going, then, when it goes somewhere, you're just like... it's better to be surprised. That's all I'm saying.
Did you read
really
the description before you went in?
I didn't. Well, I think I did, but then I forgot it, which was good.
That sounds good. Play. What's this?
It's good to have short-term memory loss in this instance. But I mean, I gave it 5 out of 5. I was like, I had a great time with it.
Wow.
It was so good.
Yeah.
You can see why it was nominated for Best Picture. So I highly recommend it. But I'm not going to say anything else because you should watch it.
Okay.
Then I also watched the first 2 Mad Max movies. And they're amazing.
I've never seen them.
They're amazing.
Okay.
They're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
They're so cool. Like, obviously, like, I think everybody has seen the most recent one, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
The one that with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, which is it's also amazing. Like one of the best like cinema experiences that a lot of people have had.
Yeah.
In recent memory. And that's been probably almost 10 years now or so. But yeah, so I mean, I've always wanted to watch them. I just haven't made it a priority. And finally watched the first one. The first one was from 1979. Same director, George Miller, directed all of them. Made in 1979, and Mel Gibson plays the main character, and in the first three, but it's you know, it's the same like post-apocalyptic world, but in the first one it's still kind of early in the world building. Plus it's super low budget. I want to say it was like $100,000 or $200,000 that they had.
Wow.
And Mel Gibson is so young, like he's almost unrecognizable. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen him this young before.
Wow.
But what they're able to achieve on that low budget is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun ride. The action is good enough. You know, the filmmaking is good enough that the budget didn't matter. They could still create something very unique and interesting and fun. And then the second one, it's just bigger and better. And the second one, you can really see the world. Like, I'm trying to explain this. Like the first one, it's hard to make that connection from the first one to Fury Road if you've seen Fury Road. But in the second one, it's like, oh, okay, now it feels a lot more Mad Maxy.
Yeah,
you know, with the characters and the set design, and you can tell they had more money because everything is just bigger and better and bloodier, and you know, it's just a lot of fun. So the first one I gave 3.5. The second one I gave 4.5. Wow. Second one was a blast.
That's awesome.
And I haven't watched the third one yet, but I'm seeing on Letterboxd that it's got the lowest ratings. So we'll see how much I enjoy that one. I haven't watched it yet. And then the last film I'm going to talk about is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Finally watched it. We've been wanting to watch it for a while, and finally I was like, isn't it out? Like, where can we find it? And it's a Roku movie. So it's on Roku. And I thought that maybe you had to have like a Roku device to watch it, but you can just go to the Roku website and watch it.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
I didn't even have to make an account or sign in or anything. So it's out there. That's easily accessible. And it's hilarious. It's great. I gave it 4.5 stars.
Wow.
It's that good. It is, I feel like it's one of those movies that is going to stand out a lot in like 10 years.
Yeah.
From this era, because it's an artist biopic, but it's Weird Al doing Weird Al.
Yeah.
And Daniel Radcliffe plays Weird Al, if listeners didn't know. He's amazing. So like Weird Al, like of course he's a parody musical artist. So of course if he's going to have a biopic, it's going to be a parody of the music biopic. Yeah. So it's freaking great. And there's so many cameos in it. Like, I won't spoil them, but like everyone's in this movie. It's great. Just random people show up playing different famous people. And it's just a good time. It's a really good time. So highly recommend. Go check it out.
I think Daniel Radcliffe's career has been just one interesting move after another. I don't think everything's quite paid off in terms of like his choices, but it's always, what is he going to do next? You know?
Yeah. Well, he's already worked with the Daniels.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really like Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, chalked that one off. There was the Guns Akimbo that he did, like Horns, and then he did like the rom-com with Adam Driver. Like, he's just all over this place, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, he can just do what he wants.
Yeah.
Have all the fun. I definitely think he's gonna keep sticking around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like with Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, and they do the one huge franchise movie. Adam Driver too.
Yeah.
One big franchise movie, and then they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They can do all the fun indie stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it on our trailers, folks. It is time now for our feature presentation. Full Metal Jacket, 1987. Vietnam can kill me, but it can't make me care. A pragmatic U.S. Marine observes the dehumanizing effects the U.S. Vietnam War has on his fellow recruits, from their brutal boot camp training to the bloody street fighting in Hue. If this was Kubrick's final movie, it would almost be too perfect, because it riddled throughout his filmography are war movies.
Yeah.
And battle movies. Mm-hmm. And comments on politics and military and all of these things from the very first feature he made, low budget thing, all throughout and up to this. And I think if this had been his final film, he would be remembered as a war movie director.
Yeah.
But luckily this wasn't his final movie. It's, not to say this is a terrible movie, but I don't think we should necessarily look at him as like a war movie director, but this really is, this is, or the first war movie, I guess, like post 2001, that's just like a war movie. I don't know, everything he does, it's just like, I can see how it might have driven some people crazy, like following him throughout his career, like in the moment, because everything he did was just all of a sudden different.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like thematically, like you say, this is like the end of his war trilogy.
Yeah,
but
kind of.
It doesn't feel like a trilogy. It doesn't feel like it's like they're connected at all.
Yeah, like it's not him trying to make his other war movies better. It's something totally different.
Yeah, and it's not. I think definitely for Kubrick, the setting of war is just coincidental because it gets to do his favorite thing, which is to show the both sides of human nature.
Yeah,
is to show us like that, that everybody isn't just 100% good or 100% evil. Like these people can kind of, human nature is that we change, and that we kind of adapt to our surroundings, and that's really the link between all these films is like how people change. But I think in war, it's just such an easier way to do that.
Yeah, and like, and a setting for. So many of his films are about, like you said, human nature, but human nature related to violence. And violence being a part of our human nature, and war is definitely a setting where it allows that part of human nature to be completely acceptable.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into more of the themes and stuff and what this movie means, but tell me, like, the first time you saw this film, what your experience was, and like how many times have you seen it?
Yeah, I have seen this a couple of times. I can remember my first year at uni, I bought a Kubrick box set. And I think it had like Clockwork Orange, The Shining, 2001, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. They were the 5 that was like included. And I can remember watching it at home and just being like, this is a lot more aggressive than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And just completely thrown by the total shift, halfway through. Yeah. We get it feels like 2 separate like films kind of in one. Yeah. So I can remember that throwing me. Either the second or third time I watched it, is as a story that I like to remind my wife of a lot. We had the in-laws in town, and my wife decided that she just wanted to kind of go to bed early. So we were like sitting at home, flicking through the channels, and for some reason ended up watching Full Metal Jacket. They are extremely Christian people, not really into, profanity or anything of the film
Of that
shows in
nature.
the first hour. Yeah. And I think we got about 40 minutes in, and they were like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of the second time that I watched it. But I don't think I've really gone back to it very often since then.
Yeah.
It's a film that I can recall. I don't feel like I need to go back and watch it because there's things that I missed. It kind of buries itself into your brain, I think.
Yeah.
What about you? How many times have you seen it?
This was probably the third or so time, just kind of like you, maybe fourth. But this movie, I mean, I can't remember the first time I saw it, but I do remember just being totally sucked into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost want to call it the intro to the film, but I mean, the intro to the film, I guess, is like 45 minutes long. So it's really just part one and part two.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first part of this movie that all takes place at the boot camp is just incredible. Like, it just sucks you in, and I mean, the closing to the boot camp when Vincent D'Onofrio is in the bathroom and he's got the gun. I mean, it's just it's so brutal, and psycho. Like, it's just completely, like, I don't even know. Like, I can't like describe anything on this episode. I don't know why, but I just remember like getting to the end of that section and being like, holy shit, like that was so intense. And then the movie just like cuts, the music changes completely.
Yeah.
It's something totally, I mean, like especially the music change and choice of music is so different from Kubrick as well. It feels like him trying new things. Like, he's always trying something new. He's always like finding new ways to tell stories.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I think that just, presents that cut in particular just shows the switch that we're about to see. The first half is very much, it's kind of orchestrated, music made for the film, composed for the film, as well as the marching. I don't know, the roll call, I guess you'd call it, like the chanting. And then that switch is just like, okay, they're out of boot camp. They can be their own person again. It's like back to, rock and roll and that kind of stuff. But it's so jarring. I mean, I think you can see where Tarantino gets some of his inspiration from. Yeah. I know that it's probably because These Boots Are Made for Walking is in, I think, Kill Bill. So like already my association with that song is linked to Tarantino. Yeah. But that kind of sudden change in tone with the rock music and the kind of fixation on the feet. You're like, am I watching a Tarantino film right now?
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, there's just I think this film is still very much I don't know, as of this moment and going through all of these films, this definitely isn't my favorite Kubrick. But it is one that I'm like, I really, there's a lot more here than I'm realizing, and it's also because he's doing things so differently than everything else we've already been watching. I mean, you think about the opening to A Clockwork Orange, and it's like 30 seconds. That shot of Malcolm McDowell and the narration zooming out of the milk bar does so much in 30 seconds. But in Full Metal Jacket, I feel like by the time we get to, like, to me, it feels like by the time we get to Vincent D'Onofrio killing his drill sergeant and then shooting himself in the head, to me, that's like the end of the opening. Yeah. And that's 45 minutes into the movie. Yeah. Because it's setting up whatever we're going to get next. I mean, there's so much established, like, even though we're following Vincent D'Onofrio's character, there's so much established that pays off later in the movie. I mean, you get the introduction of Cowboy's character, you get the introduction of Joker. The first time we meet Joker is when he's doing John Wayne accent, and the drill sergeant starts yelling at him, and he says, he asks him why he signed up for the Marines, and he says to kill.
Yeah.
And then he goes into like, well, you don't scare me. Give me your war face. And then he gives him his war face and screams. And the ending of the movie is when he gets his first kill. That's like the mirror, that's the link right there, the thread. He gets his first kill, and his war face is not the war face he gives in boot camp.
No. Yeah.
You know? It's much more psychologically taxing.
Yeah.
So I found that connection, like watching it, I watched it twice this week. So watching it again, just kind of paying attention to like what we see that pays off here. And Cowboy, also his character is like visibly nervous in boot camp, and then he's the one that dies. And his death is probably the most brutal in the whole movie, because he just like the way that he's suffering, but also like, in comparison to other war movies, or even in just Vietnam movies, I think the two big Vietnam movies that come to mind are Apocalypse Now and Platoon.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen Platoon, but Apocalypse Now is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen either?
I haven't.
Yeah. But you have seen a lot of war movies, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think as a Brit, the Vietnam War is something that's not easy to kind of recall. For me, in terms of we're not really taught about it. It's not kind of part of conversation, where I know it's of that time where a lot of people had relatives or, people that were either in the war or had some kind of, obviously they knew what was going on. Whereas, it feels very alien to me.
Yeah, I feel that. I think, the Vietnam War for me, I mean, it was, before I was born. Yeah. But, my grandparents were of the age that they would have been in the war, but none of my grandparents were. But I have, it has, come up in conversation every now and again. I know that, especially like stuff like post, like soldiers coming home and not being accepted and stuff. But I mean, there are some stories that like my great aunt has told me about, being in high school, and a lot of the guys that she knew like went off to Vietnam and didn't come back. Wow. I mean, as far as a war movie in general, and especially, well, not even especially a Vietnam movie, but just war movies in general, the deaths of the soldiers in Full Metal Jacket, like, are not glorious at all. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no like hero moments. Yeah. For any of the deaths or any of the revenge or anything like that. I know there's a moment in Platoon that was brought up a lot in some of the behind the scenes documentaries with Willem Dafoe, where he's like being shot, and it like mirrors like Christ dying on the cross, like his arms are out and stuff. Yeah. And it's a whole like, and like with the music and everything, it's like, it glorifies. No, not even. It doesn't necessarily glorify the soldier's death, but it does make it like heroic. Yeah, paints it in a heroic light. Whereas this movie does not do that at all. No. And it's not. It is satirical in some ways, but not in the way that like he does it in Doctor Strangelove. Yeah. But it does have hints of that, like especially in like the boot camp scenes, like a lot of the stuff that the drill sergeant says are like, is this a joke? Sergeant Hartman.
Yeah.
Oh, like for instance, when he's talking about the like Lee Harvey Oswald and the sniper at UT, he's like, they were Marines. We trained them to kill. You know?
Yeah.
As like it's something to be proud of. But he's talking about like violence. He's talking about like domestic violence, like violence taking place. Is that what you would call it? Domestic violence, like violence taking place on U.S. soil by or domestic terrorism, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's like proud of it.
Mm.
He's like proud that Marines were killing U.S. citizens. And he's like, I mean, he even says at the end of that whole spiel, like, and that's what we're going to train you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of like interesting comments like that. I mean, there's so many quotes in this movie, like so many quotable things in this movie. A lot of them are like, but you know,
I think in terms of Kubrick's filmography so far, there's always been that like undercurrent of like dark humor and just, you know, like you can tell there's like a sly smile behind the camera. Full Metal Jacket for me is the least humorous of any of Kubrick's films. It's just there's not even an attempt to try and pull this back. You know, it's just a full blown deconstruction of what war is and what how these people are being programmed to live. You know, we don't ever see it, but my thought the whole way through, which is maybe kind of what they were going for, is just how are these people going to function outside of this environment now?
Yeah,
because they've just been, you know, bludgeoned to the point where they're not the same person anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess the Private Joker, he does keep some of his humor, you know, in the scenes that we see after he's still kind of cracking jokes and stuff. But it's more of it's more kind of to stand up against authority instead of him being himself.
Yeah.
And again, I think that we get another lead in Private Joker that's not necessarily super likable.
Yeah.
You know, he's the guy that we kind of follow through, but I don't think there's many points that, you know, obviously I don't, you know, I want him to survive and stuff, but I'm not like he's my man, you know?
Yeah.
Which again is kind of
the first time you get introduced to him, he's admitting to being the one that spoke up.
Yeah.
You know, while Hartman is yelling at everybody.
Himself.
Yelling at everybody, and then he's like yelling at the guy next to him. So he like confesses so that he like, and so you get the sense that he's like confessing so that someone else doesn't get punished. So you automatically want to, you know, kind of like him a little bit, and then you also kind of I don't know. You kind of want to. I feel like you kind of want to like everybody that's in the boot camp at the beginning because they're all not Hartman. You know, they're all just taking this verbal abuse from Hartman.
Yeah.
But then like you expect Joker to kind of help Pyle out a little bit more. You know, you kind of like he's helping him out, he's training him, he's kind of taking him under his wing, but then, you know, he's right there joining the guys, like, you know, like doing the soap, hitting him with the soap.
Above and beyond, really. I mean, the other guys get like one like hit each, and I think like Joker hits him, and you can see that rage like really coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, do you hate Hartman? Like, when you're watching it, are you like he's the villain?
No, I don't think so. I think I just, I mean, that's just what it's like.
I mean, when you boil it down, he's done his job. They are all they all pass, and they are all ready for active duty.
Yeah,
you know,
hate all the other guys more than Hartman in that scene when they, when they're beating up Pyle.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that in the book he mentioned was that a lot of war movies are about camaraderie, and this is not.
Yeah.
This is more about isolation. And the only kind of like camaraderie that does happen is kind of when they all gang up to beat up Pyle.
Yeah.
Camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
And also that scene, it's the only other scene that has the same lighting and music as when Pyle kills Hartman and himself.
Mm. Yeah,
so
it's
I
that
think
like
there's
blue hue throughout
Mhm. and the same music. So I think it's I think there's like Kubrick's trying to connect a thread there of like, bullying leading to someone just snapping.
Yeah, if he'd had the support of the others throughout that with Hartman, he may have, made it through. But again, very similar to The Shining, it's the isolation that sends you to the brink.
Yeah.
It's not being a part of that group.
Yeah.
I can't remember the first time I saw it, but it is incredibly shocking.
Yeah.
And totally unbelievable. It kind of overshadows the rest of the film. You're still in that daze when, the next half hour to an hour is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You're still kind of like, oh my God, I just can't believe that that's happened.
Yeah.
And
that they just go on.
Yeah. And it's just not, it's not talked about.
Yeah.
What
do you think of Vincent D'Onofrio in that scene in the bathroom?
Yeah, it rivals Nicholson, doesn't it? As as deranged and the looks that he can give. It's the slow movements as well, which I know is probably meticulous, but the gun, slowly raising to Private Joker and then like him pivoting over to Hartman. The shot, the last shot that we get of him like sitting on the toilet after he's killed himself, and there's like he's only wearing one sandal, and he's just kind of like, limp, and we get to hold it for a second. It's kind of it sits with you, uncomfortably for too long. But it's an incredible performance.
Apparently, Kubrick told D'Onofrio before they shot that scene, he was like, "It's got to be big." He was like James Cagney big. And so I don't know what movie it was, but I think he had like just watched. He like watched one of the James Cagney movies over and over before he did that scene.
Yeah, I keep hearing James Cagney like pulled up for Kubrick all the time. There's like a Steven Spielberg anecdote where when Spielberg first saw The Shining and Kubrick asked him what he thought, he said that he didn't really like Nicholson's performance, and he's like, okay, like name me like your top 5 actors. And Spielberg was like, okay, Jimmy Stewart, Spencer Tracy, like blah blah blah. And Kubrick was like, you didn't mention Cagney, and that's who Nicholson is. He's Matt Cagney.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think that is a very interesting link there. I mean, White Heat, I assume would be watched at some point because Cagney's performance in that is like another level. Mm-hmm. If we're talking like deranged and crazy, you need to watch White Heat. It's an incredible performance. The similarities are definitely there.
That's interesting. He's definitely somebody I'm going to check out more now that he's been mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't like, it's weird because it's like Full Metal. I can't say that Full Metal Jacket is my favorite Kubrick film, but the first 40 minutes of this movie like are so good. I mean, the rest of the movie is good too, but Jesus Christ, like.
I think the second half is definitely saying something different. I think we still end on the same note, but the second half is more about propaganda and how it's being sold to us, and the use of words, and why we shouldn't take everything at face value. But the first half is just this. I feel like the first half is more what we're familiar with from Kubrick. It feels familiar,
But it feels familiar, but it also feels a lot like Kubrick going back to the basics.
Yeah.
But like the way the shot design.
Yeah.
Like there's shots in the boot camp scenes where they'll last like 5 or 10 seconds and there's no speaking. It's literally just like cinema broken down to its most natural basic form of just like, let's tell a story in a shot.
Yeah.
Most notably like when all of the men are like doing push-ups or doing some kind of activity, and then it like zooms out or pans over and you see Pyle sitting there with his hat backwards, and he's like sucking his thumb.
Yeah.
He's like being made to just sit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no dialogue, just information.
Yeah.
Information. And it's not that it feels amateur or anything, but it does feel very like stripped down.
Yeah.
Because it's not like sensational. It's not like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not spectacle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, there's the one dorm room, and then there's the kind of the obstacle course, and that's the only that's the setting for that whole 40 minutes, and even the like the dorm room isn't. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in the background. There's no like hidden meaning. I think it's just what is happening on screen and what is being said, in its most prime. I can't think of the word, but the most primitive way of doing it. And yeah, I mean, we only really hear Hartman's voice for the majority of it. He's a constant noise. He's either yelling or, telling people to keep going or going around and berating them or whatever. And then we get that wonderful POV shot of him kind of like shouting at the camera. And it's very like disconcerting. You don't feel comfortable in that while that's happening at all as a viewer. Yeah. He really puts you in the place of the cadets. And it's terrifying. I don't know why anyone would join that.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. That's what I was just gonna say. Like, I wonder how much effect it had on like, the Marines being able to recruit people after this came out.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like, I would think that like you probably would want to watch this movie before joining the Marines.
Yeah.
It probably is very accurate. Besides, the suicide at the end. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, my older brother is a Marine. I probably should have asked him if he had seen this movie before joining. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few people that I've spoken to that, have been in the Marines before. And they kind of, the things that they've mentioned, it makes it sound very similar to this in terms of just like the, you've got to be mentally and physically strong at all times. Yeah. And, just to get through it. Which sounds horrendous. And I think that in terms of film history and kind of, and whether people, went to see it and stuff like that. I mean, Platoon, like you already said, came out, I think the year before, and did really well at the Oscars and stuff. And kind of, there was a lot of plaudits for it. So when this came out, it was kind of right wham bam in the middle of like the Vietnam film period. And I think a lot of people compared the two, which the biography I read said is pretty unfair because they're not saying the same thing, as you've already touched on.
Yeah.
They're saying, completely different things, but it kind of, it suffered a little bit because Platoon is very, this might not have been the best war, but these people are doing their best. And this is more Like, just look how worthless this is. Like, look, like nothing is being gained about, these people are kind of, I mean, the whole last 20 minutes is them trying, they lose 4 people from their like platoon kind of going forward. And it's just one lone sniper in a building. And it's like, what have you gained from taking this person out?
Yeah.
It's just, it totally throws everything. Like you were saying about the heroicism, in other films it would have been, a whole army of people that they took down with like ingenuity. And this is just like, we'd literally threw a smoke grenade and got into the door and walked up the steps,
Yeah.
There's no planning really. It's just, brute force.
Yeah, it's just chaos and
Yeah.
And organized chaos.
Yeah.
Or organized chaos. I don't know.
Yeah. And no one feels safe. When Joker's being shot at when he's behind the pillar, you're like, he's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hesitate to say, but I think Stanley Kubrick might be woke. With his commentaries on the U.S. military.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's been trying to say it, hasn't he, for his whole career.
Yeah.
You look at, I mean, even back to Fear and Desire, it's that kind of, just, I don't know, shouting into the void, it doesn't really mean anything what the soldiers are doing on the ground. And just, yeah, he's, I think he finally got it right with this. I feel like Fear and Desire, it's early, it's very arty. Paths of Glory obviously got it right, but in different ways. It was more about the authority, and this is just like the uselessness of what is happening.
Yeah, and also just like, there's something there about Joker and his, he joined to kill, and then later in the movie, he becomes a journalist, and so he doesn't really see a lot of action.
Yeah,
but then when they're doing the documentary shots, which also something new for Kubrick. He says that he wanted to be the first kid on his block to get a confirmed kill. And then by the end he gets his kill, but it's not glorious. He didn't even like. She's just wounded on the ground, and he's not even the one that wounded her. Like he fumbled his moment, but he still technically gets a confirmed kill.
Because when you think of confirmed kill, you think of like you said, the heroic kind of like shooting people from a distance and, being able to kind of clear a passageway. And this is mercy. It's a mercy kill. Like she's pleading to be to be killed.
Yeah.
And it's not glamorous at all.
No, but it's, I don't know. It's like, you get the sense that maybe he'll look at that differently now that he's finally got this thing that he's talked about. He's going to maybe just leave it at that,
Yeah.
And not get any more.
Yeah, I think that when the reality of what it means to take a life kind of dawns on him, you can see it in that like long shot on his face. It's not what he had imagined. It's not what it's been kind of brought up when he was at boot camp. None of it has been. Even the other soldiers that are kind of joking about it. When he first gets to Cowboy's group, and they're kind of sitting around, and they've got the soldier that's kind of covered with the hat, sitting on the deck chair, and then he's been dead the whole time. It's kind of everyone's joking around and stuff, and it's just all for show, isn't it? It's just it's all a facade.
Yeah.
For like kind of the horrors that people are going to be taking with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that second part that the documentary style is the most interesting, because I feel like it's like hearing, proper like hearsay from the soldiers. It's like you're listening to like real interviews, for what they're saying. For the camera, especially, it's kind of being played up again, isn't it? It's like you said, I want to be the first person to get a confirmed kill on the block, and it's sound bites.
But also you kind of get the sense of like the brainwashing that's being done.
Yeah.
The desensitization of these soldiers to be able to become killing machines.
Yeah.
The justification for all of it, all of that stuff. And then you get like the last scene is, the kind of sun coming up with the soldiers marching and singing the Mickey Mouse Club song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which Kubrick said that he decided to put that in because he's trying to show that like these guys are like 4 years ago they were just kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're still very close to that.
Yeah, I think it's just that, going back to, obviously I agree with Kubrick, but it's going back to that, where do you feel comfortable? Where is this not going to mentally affect you? And it's when you're a child. You can still, it's like going back to somewhere where you're innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it does leave you with that kind of, just this whole film. I feel like this show kind of is mirroring the film a bit, because I feel personally I came out of it really deflated and just totally like just sad, just really sad at like what had happened, especially, I know we mentioned it, but Cowboy's death, it comes after we see, inglorious, blood splattering Technicolor, like these soldiers being shot in slow motion and kind of like, again and again and again. And then we get Cowboy's death, and it's one shot, and like he's taken off, and he knows it's coming. And just the juxtaposition between those two things, Cowboy's death is just like it's just like a hammer falling.
Well, plus he's like, isn't he saying like I can handle it, or something, right? When he's like going,
and just the emotion from the others where, like, stay with me, like we can, we're gonna get you out of this. It's okay, like just stay with me.
Yeah.
Just knowing that it's not gonna happen, and then we're gonna have to get up and just carry on. They don't even have a second to grieve. It's like, okay, we've got to keep going. We've got to take this down.
Yeah, it's an intense movie for sure. I think, but yeah, I mean, I still think there's a lot there. It's a very important film.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even talk about the duality of man, did we?
I don't think we did. No.
But that's the whole sequence with the peace sign and the born to kill. You've got that going on, which I think is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I it's one of those things that you like would expect Kubrick just to not say anything about.
Yeah.
But instead he like has a whole sequence where one of the sergeants is like, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
While you've got this huge line of dead bodies. It's a great sequence.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess there's a lot going on in this movie about the duality of man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the born to kill and the peace sign that's like on the poster and kind of on Joker's like helmet and stuff. It's it's like, well, which one do you believe?
Yeah,
which one is it that's more important?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the like war propaganda, not only here but also throughout history and still to this day, is like, oh, well, we have to keep fighting wars to bring peace.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of technical things that I love about this movie are the shot when the camera is there's like, you see the camera guy with his assistant, and it just goes down the line of all the guys in the platoon.
Yeah.
With the music that's like ba 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 ba, that part.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that part. Amazing shots. Just all of it. It's just like kind of Kubrick just showing off in a way, like showing off the set, showing off everything.
Yeah.
It really makes you feel like you're in it. Probably one of the best shots in the movie. And then the whole last 10 minutes from the moment that they throw the smoke bomb so they can get in the building.
Yeah.
And it's all orange and the fires all around. Like, it just looks incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those last 10 minutes are just like, looks amazing.
Yeah. And I don't think we've, the fact that it's a female sniper as well, alone in this building is totally out of the realm of kind of what we're used to in war films,
Yeah. Was kind of de-romanticizing it again by being like, oh, it was just a 12-year-old girl that was shooting you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And apart from the prostitutes, that's the only other female we see in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just so much in here to unpack. There's a lot of things that I like. I really like the opening shot, how it kind of moves from side to side as Hartman is walking around the building, and the camera just kind of like slides. There's a lot of compositions and like shots, setups that I like when they're hitting pile with the soap. I like how it's kind of above and you can see them all kind of crawling out of their beds to come in. Then they just kind of disappear. Once they've hit, they just go off to the off screen and just kind of disappear. I really like that. I think there's just so much going on, but there's so many little things in here that you forget about. I mean, like you said before, with the fact that it's not, a unit, it's not about unity. They still have prejudices. I mean, there's the animal mother with the prostitute outside the cinema, and he's still like openly racist to one of his other members. Just because they're in this together doesn't mean the prejudices have gone.
Yeah.
It's just the whole thing just leaves you very uncomfortable. And Kubrick did kind of talk about it in an interview. He said, "I certainly don't think the film is anti-American. I think it tries to give a sense of the war and the people and how it affected them. I think with any work of art, if you can call it that stays around the truth and is effective. It's very hard to write a nice capsule explanation of what it's about." He said he has enough faith in the audience to think they're able to appreciate something which doesn't pander to them.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's what he's been doing his whole career. None of the films have been pandering to the audience since Spartacus. And that was out of his hands,
just like connecting to some deep truth about the realities of war and particularly the realities of the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Again, with Kubrick's films, reviews were mixed. People loved it, people didn't. Did really good business, though. I mean, took a lot of money. I think at this point, it was an event. I mean, it's been 7 years since The Shining. Yeah. A new Kubrick film is a big thing. So I think, it would have done well. But again, Kubrick's meticulous about how he placed it. It opened in New York first and then gradually grew and grew and grew. And more people went to see it. The whole advertising campaign that we know today was down to him with just the helmet on the white one sheet, which is a kind of a theme that I wish someone would redo all of the films that Kubrick made with that, just like that one image from the film, But yeah, it definitely sticks with you, and just another, not a critical success, but a success with the audience. And I think that's what Kubrick was always going for. It wasn't, how can I make this, a critical success? It was more, how can I give the audience what, something that they're going to want to see.
Yeah. But it seems like now, like in retrospective, this movie stands out a lot more than Platoon.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think that's just probably because of the stance that it takes. You can't, it feels real.
Yeah.
And that might just be because my personal views on kind of war and stuff just align with what's being said in this film. But I feel like it's saying something a bit more interesting than other war films that I've seen before. Yeah. That are just like, how great is it that these people are doing this? And it's it is incredible, that people are laying down their lives for this country, or for a country, I should say. But how crazy is it that they're having to do that?
Yeah, especially when it's in hindsight, it's like, well, why were we there? Why, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, isn't it before Joker goes and joins Cowboy and everything? They're talking and they're like, "Yeah, this is pretty much over. This war's pretty much going to end.
Yeah,
soon. Everyone knows that it was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we still need to swing it that it was positive,
right,
which makes even the last 20 minutes even more like futile."
Yep.
It's like, just turn around, go back. Don't worry about that sniper in the building.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, did you notice Stanley Kubrick's voice in the movie?
I didn't. No, where is it?
No. He plays Sergeant Murphy on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's that's Kubrick. I recognize him. I was like, that's got to be Kubrick. I looked it up. It's like his only acting credit.
Wow.
And it almost sounds like it could be Peter Sellers, but I think that was because Peter Sellers was doing Kubrick and Lolita.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
wow.
Be sure to listen for him next time. Another hilarious thing that happened. I don't know if you heard about this. Kubrick, and I think it's during the last sequence when they're getting shot by the sniper. Kubrick obviously is notorious for taking a very long time with shooting.
Yeah.
He was up on a crane, like just way up in the sky on a crane, trying to plan something out. And all of the extras and soldiers are down, just sitting there waiting. So they're all just waiting for hours and hours and hours. And finally someone is like, "Come get off the crane." And Kubrick's assistant was like, "Who said that? Like, everyone needs to be quiet." So Kubrick can, you got to let him go through his process or whatever. Everyone be quiet. And then hours go by, and then finally someone says it again. Same thing happens. Hours go by. Someone finally is like, "Get off the crane." And then Kubrick comes down himself, and he's like, storms over there, and he's like, "All right, who said that?" And then somebody in the back is like, "I am Spartacus." And then somebody else was like, "I am Spartacus." And everyone busts out laughing, even Kubrick. It's just so perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I got. I mean, I hope people enjoyed this episode. Sorry if we didn't give you enough, but it's a very dense movie, and I think it's still processing it, and it's one that I'm going to go back to a few more times. But I mean, it's a masterpiece for sure.
Yeah. It's hard to bring the joy to a film like this. It's hard to kind of look on the bright side with something as downbeat as this, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think some things to take away from it that I take away from it. Ali Ermi, his performance is incredible as Hartman. It is just one of the top character performers ever. Really, it's an
cinematic
incredible
characters.
Yeah, it's just
which mainly it's because
brilliant.
That's who he is. He was a drill sergeant in real life, and that's why it worked so well.
And from what I can tell, on the production, he was probably the most professional. Kubrick said himself, because you said about the takes, having to do it again and again and again. He was like, if someone comes prepared, like Ermi is, then we can do it in 2 or 3 takes. It's when they're thinking about the lines that we have to retake. I can see it in their eyes that they're thinking about the lines. Yeah. But with Ermi, it's just he knows what he's going to say, and he says it, and he puts that emotion in. And I think you can tell that Kubrick he gravitates towards him every time. Yeah. Even though, and I think that's where that kind of shift comes, how you feel so disoriented, because we're supposed to be with Joker, but the first half, it's Hartman that steals the show.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I mean, yeah, that first 45 minutes is like is perfect.
Yeah.
As a film. And I'm not saying that the second half isn't, because it is a masterpiece. I just think that in comparison, it's hard to get to that level again.
Yeah, exactly.
You get like a sudden, it's like being on a roller coaster. You get the big, like, you go up a hill, you get that big dip, and then like there's a second little bit, but it never quite reaches the thrill of the first. And this is what this film is like for me.
Yeah.
I
feel that.
Yeah. But that's it. That's my final thoughts on
Chaplin Charlie. That's got to be a reference to Charlie Chaplin.
It's got to be.
Right?
Yeah. It's got to be. Like, Kubrick, I think, was a massive fan of silent cinema, especially because it's like, it's without words and it is like pure visuals, which he's all about. So, yeah, Chaplin Charlie's got to be.
Yeah. Well, do you want to guess what we rated the film on Letterboxd?
I do. Yeah. And I think that I'm going to just jump in. I think that you gave it a 4.
Okay. I think you gave it a 4.5.
Okay. I gave it a 4.
Okay. I gave it a 4.5.
Wow, okay. So we were just projecting. We were like, this is yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a masterpiece. It's not my favorite Kubrick film. But I mean, all of these are amazing. And I think I'm going to go back to this again very soon. Yeah, agreed. I think, like you said, like we've been saying the whole time, the first hour is phenomenal. The second hour it doesn't quite reach that height for me. And it's just, I don't come out of this with a spring in my step. And I think that plays a big part when I'm like rating it how I feel emotionally, Right. So that played into it a little bit. But you are right, it is a masterpiece. And I think that maybe that will shoot up if I do watch more Vietnam films. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Apocalypse Now is good. Yeah, I know. I need to. It's we'll have to do my white whale. Yeah, it's my white whale. I know it's out there. I've got to watch it. All right. So right now the ranking, the Kubrick ranking, ranked by Film Church, is 1 through 11 right now. And at the bottom we've got Fear and Desire at 11, and then Spartacus, Lolita, Killer's Kiss, The Killing, Barry Lyndon, A Clockwork Orange, Doctor Strangelove, The Shining, Passive Glory, and 2001: A Space Odyssey at the tippity toppity. Yeah. Bippity boppity. Where is Full Metal Jacket going hoppity? It's a good question, because I don't think it's going to break the top 5. I'm right there with you. And my personal, I love The Killing. Yeah. But this, I feel, is a better made film. And that's what I keep coming back to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think, what do you think? Before I give my number, what do you think? I think it's between, I think it goes right under A Clockwork Orange. And right above Barry Lyndon. I was going to say 6. I think that's a perfect place to put it. Yeah. Cool beans. Well, that's where it's going then. I think that was the easiest one yet. I think so. Yeah, so in at number 6, Full Metal Jacket. One more, and then we've got the ultimate Film Church Radio Kubrick ranking. Yeah. Again, this film, if it had been Kubrick's last, would have been almost too perfect of a bookend. Yeah. But luckily, Kubrick is enough of a perfectionist that he can't be too perfect. And there's one more film. Yeah. What's next week, Lewis? Well, next week we are going to be watching Kubrick's final feature film, Eyes Wide Shut, from 1999. Wow. Yeah. The final one. I can't believe we made it. I know. It's gone so fast. Yeah. Well, tune in next week. Yeah. Next Sunday, where we're going to talk about that movie. It's good shit right there. Just had to get one more in. Yeah. It's a Marine movie. We got to cuss. Exactly. Well, motherfuckers, I think... I think we've reached the end of the show. And again, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias, TikTok at Film Church Radio. You can follow us individually on Letterboxd. I'm at CinemaScope, and Lewis is at WalkerLewis3007. There you can keep up with what we've been watching. We have all of our back episodes streaming on all good podcast platforms. And please leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you think of the episode and what you think of the film. You can leave us comments on everything, and we'll reply to you and engage in this conversation of amazing cinema. Thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday for more Film Church. The only thing I've got left to say is... You know what really pissing me off about these people?
What?
We're supposed to be helping them, and they shit all over us every chance they get. I just can't feature that.
Don't take it too hard, Brandon. It's just business.
Amen.
Amen.
See y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.